It's a real pleasure for me to welcome to the stage Tegan Insoll, Head of Research, and Ovaska, the Deputy Director of Protect Children Finland. I feel very privileged to work as an expert advisor with Tegan and Anna and Nina and Katariina and half a dozen other amazing researchers, analysts, academics, lawyers, whom are doing some incredible work. And I can say with great confidence that I'm not sure there is an NGO, or there isn't one that I'm currently aware of in the world, that is doing such work in the way that you are doing, having such an influence and helping to shape, develop and design the policy responses to the threat of online abuse. And it's to your great credit that you are doing such transformational work. So Anna, Tegan, the floor is yours.
That was a little much, Simon, but thank you for the very kind introduction. Oh yeah, I have the clicker here. I'm so honored to be here today with my colleague Tegan, and we have Nina and Katariina in the front row with us as well. And we're so happy, and I'm really honored to be here representing our organization and our work. My name is Ovaska. I'm Deputy Director and Legal Specialist at Protect Children, and joining me today is Tegan.
Yes, I'm Tegan Insoll, the Head of Research at Protect Children, and really happy to be here sort of representing the rest of our research team and our whole team. And thank you so much for having us at the conference, although I know we all probably wish we didn't have to attend ever these kind of conferences. If we have to, let it be this one. So, yeah.
In today's presentation, we will be taking a look behind the closed doors at undetected active child sexual abuse material offenders online. And we'll be doing this through the lens of our recent research. So before we get any deeper into this, I just wanted to give a brief overview of what we'll be talking about today. I'll start off with a little word about our organization, although Nina did already talk about Protect Children yesterday. I'll then set the scene, which although now after listening to everyone's amazing presentations, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but maybe it's good to keep repeating these facts. Then I'll pass over to Tegan, who will talk about our latest research, specifically on child sexual abuse material offenders online. We'll then wrap up with a way forward, and then we'll let you all go for your lunch break. So, about Protect Children, or Suojellaan Lapsia ry, as we're known in Finnish, we're a non-governmental organization focused solely on the prevention of all forms of sexual violence against children. We're based in Helsinki, but we work very much internationally, and I think we're more known outside of Finland than we are in Finland currently. Our work can be roughly divided into three main kind of focus areas. We empower and equip children to prevent or to protect themselves against sexual violence, although this is of course not how it should be. We support and uplift the voices and the wisdom of survivors and victims of sexual violence in childhood. We also support their families. And finally, and what we'll be talking about today, we conduct research on child sexual abuse material offenders. So we've heard these numbers over and over again, but like I said, I'm just going to repeat them once more. The problem is huge. Children are facing huge amounts of online harms. A recent study by The Economist Impact and We Protect found that over 50% of respondents aged between 18 and 20 had experienced online sexual harms during their childhood. Last year, as we've heard probably 10 times in the past few days, there were over 36 million reports to NECMEC for suspected child sexual abuse. I wanted to put this number into a little bit of context. 36 million reports equals like every single person in Canada, Peru, or Morocco would have made a report about suspected sexual violence against a child. These reports contained more than 105 million individual files. Again, for context, in the European Union, there are approximately 81 million children. This would therefore mean that there would be an image of abuse of every single child in the European Union, plus then some 25 million more. The unfortunate truth is that child sexual abuse material is so readily available that the UK National Crime Agency indicates that you can find it with as few as 3 clicks. And our research that Tegan will be talking about next very much backs this up. We're learning more and more about the long-term negative, serious impacts of sexual violence against children. And we hope that the research that we conduct supports in the prevention efforts, especially in the offender-focused prevention work that we also partake in. Before I pass on to Tegan, I wanted to touch on a couple of sort of findings that what we have found out about child sexual abuse material offenders and offending. First of all, we found that this population is mostly young males. Approximately 70% of our respondents are under 35-year-old men, since 66% report being male. Additionally, 45% are under the age of 24. Furthermore, this is something that we are gaining more and more knowledge on, and as Ellie so eloquently spoke yesterday, there seems to be potentially some sort of potential possible connection between the habitual use of adult pornography. Approximately 65% of our respondents report habitually viewing adult pornography before starting to offend against children. Of these respondents, approximately half reported viewing adult pornography on a daily basis. Interestingly, when asked for their motives for viewing child sexual abuse material, a fifth of our respondents state being desensitized to adult pornography and seeking something more. Finally, we've found that approximately 40% of our respondents have sought direct contact with a child after viewing child sexual abuse material online. I'll now pass over to Tegan.
Thank you, Anna, for setting the scene, and I know we have heard a lot of those figures quite a few times over the past few days, but I think it's good to re-hear them and put them into perspective like you did. Today, I'll be talking about 2 studies that we at Protect Children have been conducting over the past couple of years. We've heard in this conference, and we know that the crime of child sexual abuse and exploitation is increasingly occurring online or facilitated in some way by technology. However, we are limited in our understanding of exactly which platforms and how this offending is taking place. So the 2 studies I'll be presenting the results from look to examine exactly that. The first study seeks to examine the scale of the problem on the dark web. And the second one, as we acknowledge this is not a unique problem to the dark web, we started to look also on the surface web platforms where child sexual abuse material is viewed, shared, and where children are being contacted for sexual purposes. This first study that I want to present, we had the great honor of joining an international team of researchers led by our good colleague and friend, Dr. Juha Nurmi. It's quite a technical study that includes a lot of computer science, so I would really appreciate if you don't ask me too many questions about that side, but some of the later studies I can answer in much more depth. So I will just present some of the preliminary findings from this. We had a lot of questions going into this study, trying to examine and understand the scale of the availability, the accessibility, and the demand for child sexual abuse material through the Tor network. So firstly, we wanted to understand exactly how much csam is currently being hosted on the Tor network and how accessible it is through common access routes. We also wanted to put a number on the demand, how much is being searched for and what exactly is the content that is being searched for. Through this, we understood that dark web search engines as a common access point to the Tor network could be a possible intervention point. So we looked into the feasibility of staging interventions through those search engines, which included posing research surveys that some of you may be familiar with. We present some results specific to this study as well from the research survey. So firstly, to understand exactly how much child sexual abuse material is being hosted on the Tor network, we analysed a sample of over 170,000 onion domains over 5 years and found that a shocking 1 in 5 of these domains share child sexual abuse material. This is a huge number, and we know already the prevalence of illicit activities and materials on the dark web, but still these new figures help to update our understanding and see it for what it is. Not only is it hugely available, but it is extremely accessible. We looked at 26 of the most popular dark web search engines and found that through simple search terms, 21 out of these search engines easily and accessibly showed csam results. In addition, 4 of these search engines not just showed the results, but actively promoted and advertised child sexual abuse material. So we wanted to understand more also about the demand. We know that it's available, we know it's accessible, but how many people are searching for child sexual abuse material? And I think the numbers are, although shocking, are maybe not surprising. We analysed 110 million search sessions on one of the most popular dark web search engines, the Lapsia search engine, and found that over 10% of these search sessions are explicitly searching for child sexual abuse material. And to put that in numbers, that's over 12 million search sessions. These search sessions also gives us an insight into exactly what these offenders are searching for, as some of the searches include age-specific and gender-specific information. Of those that include an age, over half are searching for children between the ages of 12 and 16. And those that have a gender included, while searching for girls is more prevalent, as much of previous research has shown, the ratio is 4 to 3, so it's not quite as prevalent as some of the other studies, such as the IWF, are showing. As I said, firstly, the results are, of course, shocking and quite disturbing, but we do already know that the dark web is a place for this kind of activity. What we don't know is how to intervene in this activity. We can't just leave it to be unruled and with no intervention. So over the past 3 years, we've been testing intervention strategies to try and see what we can do in this space to prevent this offending and to prevent the further abuse of children. We realize that dark web search engines do provide an opportunity for this, as it's clearly an access point for many, many offenders and potential offenders to access child sexual abuse material. So, working with the Lapsia search engine, we've set up an intervention strategy that when a user searches for or conducts a search that includes a term that's related to child sexual abuse, they are blocked from viewing any results, and instead they are offered help resources, perpetration prevention programs, a deterrence message, and research surveys where we can gather information about this sample. This intervention is clearly having some positive impact. Over 500,000 individuals have clicked on the research surveys in the past 3 years. And over 35,000 individuals have answered and responded to these surveys. They often say that this is the first time that they've ever thought about what they're doing online, ever thought about their offending, and even just answering a few questions about what they're doing has given them an opportunity to reevaluate what they are. We saw this study as a good opportunity to look into how possible it is to change this offending behavior. So we specifically looked at help seeking and a motivation to change. We did see some positive results, as nearly half of all respondents said that they would like to stop viewing child sexual abuse material. Of course, this can be taken with a pinch of salt. But we do see a significant drop-off when we ask about whether they've sought help to change their behavior. Only 14% have actually tried to access any kind of help resource, and an even smaller, less than 4%, have successfully managed to find anything. We see this as a clear demand for these help resources that a lot of organizations in this room are providing. There is a demand for this, and we need to keep working to make sure that they're being accessed, that they're accessible, and that they're being used to the full potential. This search engine-based intervention is obviously a great way for us to gather information about this population, but we also see it as an important deterrence opportunity, as we're preventing access to csam where they might expect that they would be able to find it. And we can also steer these offenders and potential offenders and people that are fear that they may offend towards the help resources that can hopefully help to change their behavior and prevent further abuse. As I said, I gave a quick overview of some of the more technological results here, but I would highly recommend that you read the full article. It's available, and you can follow the QR code here to view it. We all know that the dark web is one of the huge problems, but we also know that it's not just the dark web. So the second study I want to present, we wanted to look into the surface web and open platforms and commonly used technology that we use on a day-to-day basis. We know from the millions of reports from tech companies every year to NCMEC, we know from victims and survivors who tell us where they have been abused and exploited, and we know from children and young people what they're telling us about their experiences online. We know that we need to focus on these platforms, but we still think there is a limit to the amount of knowledge and data that we have about exactly the platforms that are being used and abused by these offenders. So, in this study, which was kindly supported by Safe Online and the Tech Coalition, we sought to examine, from the offender's perspective, which platforms they are using. So using the same search engine-based intervention, we staged these research surveys to ask offenders just that. Which platforms do you use to search for and view child sexual abuse material? And which platforms are your preferred platforms for your behaviors? Again, a lot of these results might not be so surprising, but I think that's a role in any research organization, is to prove what we already know and give strength to this. It's important when we talk to policymakers and other stakeholders to be able to back up what we already know with strong data. So firstly, child sexual abuse material is prevalent and it is accessible also on the open web. We surveyed dark web users, but still nearly 80% of them say that they have seen child sexual abuse material or a link to child sexual abuse material somewhere on the surface web. The majority say that they viewed it on a pornography site or a social media platform. This shows just how accessible it is and how important these measures such as age verification are to prevent unwanted access and exposure to harmful and abusive material, especially among children and young people who also use these services. Not only is child sexual abuse material passively available online, but the offenders that we surveyed say that they are actively using popular social media and messaging apps to view and to share this material. When we look at the social media apps, we can see that the apps that they use are the exact same ones that are populated by children and young people every day. Instagram, X, Discord, TikTok, Facebook, I mean, these are the ones I use as well. The highlighting has gone a bit strange here. That was meant to cover the messaging apps. We see not only are they using social media, but we see a huge preference for messaging apps, and specifically messaging apps that include end-to-end encryption. I think this issue was summed up very well by Michael Salter yesterday in his keynote speech, when he spoke about the use of all of these privacy services by offenders and how they're being used as a safe haven for offending. Telegram and WhatsApp are clearly preferred for this offending type. And we're really worried about this increase and this spread and this movement towards end-to-end encryption, especially under the guise of privacy. Finally, we know that child sexual abuse material offending is not simply that. There is a clear overlap that we found in our research, and we've heard from others, with other forms of sexual abuse and exploitation against children. We see that people who view and use child sexual abuse material are at a very high risk of further offending. In our study, we found that 40% of those who view or are searching for child sexual abuse material admit to having contacted a child after viewing it. The majority of this contact takes place online, specifically through social media, such as Instagram, Facebook, and Discord, on online games, where children feel safe and comfortable and are just there to have fun, and through messaging apps as well. You can read the full report, again, via this QR code, and we also have a few copies at the back that I highly recommend that you pick up and have a read through. It's important to remember that this crime is taking place not just in the dark corners of the internet and not just hidden on the Tor network, but in every platform, in every service, and it's taking place everywhere. Again, thank you so much for Safe Online and Tech Coalition's support of this project. It's been really important for us to shine a light and to understand exactly where this is happening. And we aim to continue this research to understand more. This was a preliminary study to see if we could even get any results from these offenders. But they do want to talk to us. They want to tell us. So we will continue to ask questions that we need to know. And we will work together as a community to make sure that we're asking the questions that are needed. That's it from me, but Anna will now take us through the last sort of next steps and what we would want to see as a result of this.
We had a couple more slides. I just wanted to sort of wrap up and bring our attention back to why we're all here today, what our purpose as a community is and has to continue to be. So, Tegan, if you could pass us over to the next slide, I'll just read this quote from a victim survivor and a respondent to our global survivor survey. They write, "In my case, sexual violence has mostly happened online. I used to have free access to the internet because my parents are not very familiar with technology. It started with kid-oriented platforms where grown men pretended to be kids and got me to give them my phone number and send them pictures of myself." This victim survivor is one of the millions of victims and survivors of online sexual violence against children. It's our job here today to ensure that this does not keep happening. We need stronger focus on early prevention. We need tech platforms that are built and developed with children's rights in mind first and foremost. And we need stronger, unified legislation to ensure that the aforementioned requirements are actually met. Thank you so much.
Anna, Tegan, thank you so much. Exactly as I expected, you've delivered. It's just perfect. Right, it's our lunchtime. If you could all join us back here in an hour's time, I'd be most grateful. Thank you very much.